If you'll let them know to state their name and making motion.
I sure will.
Thank you.
All right, if we could come to order, everybody grab a seat, please. Everyone grab a seat. We'll get started here. Welcome this beautiful first meeting in 2022, and we will bring to order the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority first meeting in 2022. And with that, I call to order and establish a quorum. And I'll remind all our board members, when you make a motion, please state your name, and second, please state your name so that we can record that. Thank you. And I welcome everyone online. And with that, first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Could I see who's in the room?
You bet.
Okay, we have City Councilman Wayne Williams and Mayor Pro Tem. Is that Roland? Are you? Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem of Callahan, Roland Gardine, Rick Sonnenberg, and Gail and Jennifer and Andy Gunning, and Jim Godfrey and Larry Tobias, who's the new vice chair of the CAC. Does that help?
It does. We didn't do roll call, so I was like, wondering who was here. That's it. Thank you.
All
Okay.
right, you bet. All right. So I think we were just about to get a motion.
Move approval of the agenda.
That's from Councilmember Williams. Do I hear a
I'll
second?
second, John Graham.
Mayor Graham is the second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? I hear none. The agenda has approved. All right, item number 3, public comment period for items not on the agenda. If you are in the audience or online and you want to make a comment on items not on today's agenda, please identify yourself and the floor is open. Jess, do we see anyone online? All right, anyone in the audience want to make comments on items not on the agenda today? Okay, I hear none. So public comment is completed. Item number 4, appointment, reappointment of board members and selection of officers. And I will turn this over to Rick. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's 2 items on the agenda today on this item. One is the acknowledgement of the member government governing bodies appointing their PPRTA board directors for 2022. I have received written confirmation, which is what's required in the board bylaws, of the member entity appointments to the PPRTA board, and they are all the same directors that the board has had in 2021, obviously with the exception of the Callahan's appointment of Mayor Pro Tem Roland Gardine. So the compliance with that rule for legal compliance has been met. So the board is constituted for calendar 22. Next item is the board selecting its 3 officers for the calendar 22, the board chair, which has to be a county director, the board vice chair, which has to be a city director, and then the board secretary. So I would request the board chair to start the process and request a motion for the chairmanship from a county director for 22.
Thank you, Rick. So the floor is open, requesting a motion for the board chair, which must come from the El Paso County.
This is Commissioner Gonzalez.
Commissioner Gonzalez, I see you. Welcome, and make your motion.
Sure. I'd like to nominate Holly, going from vice chair to chair here this year.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. Do I hear a second?
Yes, I would like to second. This is John Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion? I think we'll open the floor up for Vice Chair at this time, Williams, for some comments.
My only comment is yay, let's go for it.
Do we have any other comments from board members that are online or here before us? I see none. Therefore, though we take a roll call vote for this versus, or since we only have one, are there any other are there any other nominations or motions? I failed to do that. I hear and see none.
Voice vote is sufficient.
Thank you. So those all in favor of approving the motion to appoint as chair of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority, Commissioner Williams, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank God I hear none. Therefore, I'm going to hit my gavel.
Yes.
Welcome, Chair.
Okay.
And with that, we will at least exchange for right now.
Do we change
You just,
now?
I guess,
No?
if you want to
Oh,
just
no, I'll just sit
continue.
here.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, thank you for that vote. So now we have the election of the vice chairman, Mr. Sonnenberg.
So according to the board bylaws, the vice chair needs to come from the city directors, City Colorado Springs only. So I request that the chair ask for a motion for a nomination.
City Councilman Williams.
I'd nominate our past chair, Randy Helms, to serve as vice chair.
Okay, we need a second. I will second.
Roland Guarding, Mayor Pro Tem, second it.
Okay, we have a second from Roland Gardine. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing no other nominations, I will close nominations and ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 For myself.
We'll take, if you want to. Anyone want to say no? Okay, we'll just make sure on that. So we have a vice chair, which is Randy Helms. So thank you very much. We would also like to, before we move on, recognize Roland Gardine from the town of Callahan as our newest member of the board. And I don't think yay, none of our other faces have changed. So we're really happy. Go ahead, Rick.
Your third officer is your board secretary.
That's right.
Oh, yes, we have to nominate Rick as our board secretary. The chair will entertain a nomination for that.
So made.
Second, Helms, second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and you are still our board secretary, Rick. Yay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are happy to have the town of Callahan here. And then also too, I think Rick advised us that every member jurisdiction has submitted their letters in time. So all of us are serving legally today. So that's pretty awesome.
That makes me very happy.
Yes, it keeps the attorney happy. So we made sure the county got theirs over yesterday. All right, so that would be the conclusion of item number 4. Item number 5 is the approval of minutes from the December 8th, 2021 meeting as published in our packet.
I move approval, John Graham.
Second, Wayne Williams.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes? Okay, seeing no questions.
Sorry. I just wanted to clarify that the packet had been updated because there was revised minutes that were sent out subsequent to the packet. So I just want to make it clear that the version that we're approving are the subsequent version that was incorporated into the packet afterwards.
Okay. So then, Mr. Williams, are you okay if the motion be to approve the revised minutes? Okay, seeing that substitution, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, none opposed. That one passes as well. Item number 6 is our Citizen Advisory Committee Monthly Report. Jim Godfrey.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the meeting, Mr. Gardine. Welcome to the group. Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Our meeting last week, we had election of officers for 2022. I'd like to introduce the Rev Replacement Unit. Larry Tobias is first chair. And and our second vice chair is Mr. Ed Dills. Some of you know Mr. Dills is very active in the area. And you're stuck with me for another year. So I'm honored to be part of this group and to represent this group. I'll continue to do my best to earn your trust. So thank you. The city of Colorado Springs presented 6 contracts to us. We had good discussions, no issues, and recommend approval of the city's request. The other item, most of were information, but the other item we did have discussion on the PPRTA 3 matrix. You'll hear this coming up. Beverly has presented us with a new option for revenue estimates for the going forward in terms of revenue split and estimates and whatnot, and you'll hear from her. And we recommend approval of Beverly's presentation. So hope you do as well. Then the other thing I'd like just to report on it in your packet is the CAC report to the board. That's a summary of our activities, of the things that we've done this past year, signed by myself to you on the things that we've done and our actions and that kind of thing. So other than that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions?
I just wanted to welcome Larry. Could stand up and say hello to everybody there. First vice chair, thank you.
All right, with no questions, Jim, we thank you for your report. We also thank you very much for all the work the committee does and the annual report. We appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
And I'd move to accept
to-
the
no.
2 reports.
Oh.
Second.
We need a motion to accept both reports.
Got a second?
And we had a second from Commissioner Gonzalez. Thank you, crew. And so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Our next item is number 7, monthly financial reports from Good News Bev.
Good afternoon, board. On page 1, the November sales and use tax received was $12,226,000, which is $797 above the monthly amended budget, or 7%. And then on page 2, the comparison to last year, in November, we were $1,913,000 above last November's monthly figure, or 18.5%. So we're still just doing quite well. Are there any questions on the financials?
Are there any questions on the financials? Mr. Williams.
Just at some point when it's appropriate, I'd like to hear from, I know we reallocated some additional money to the county and city when we did our mid-year budget, and just kind of get a report as to how that's going. Thanks.
Just to clarify, would you like to hear from the city and county staff as to how they're utilizing the funds, and is that what you're requesting?
Right. It's more, I know we did it kind of mid-year, we did it early mid-year, but just, have they been able to utilize those funds effectively is just kind of what I'd like to get, because I think that shapes us as we go forward with budgets and when we do mid-year approvals. And I just sprung it on them, so I'm not, doesn't necessarily have to be today. If they want to address it today, great. If not, then, and they can just incorporate that when they do their reports. Thanks.
We can go right now if you wanted to. If you're ready, if not, we can do it when we do your reports. Or we can just wait till February.
To give you a better report, let's wait till February. And if you could we clarify, do you want to know with that second amendment? Is that what you're looking for, or both, or just in general where we are from recapping from the 21 budget items?
All of that. But so part of it is to help shape us, what we do as a board when we're saying, if we get you the money in, I think one of those approvals was in May, is that sufficient to be able to use it? So I think that shapes us going forward as we look at budgets and when we do those amendments, because we work on a cash basis in the RTA. It's one of the foundational principles, but we also want to make sure we're able to use those funds effectively. And so if we need to do it sooner in the construction year, I want to know that, just whatever you feel like sharing with us. But was it effective? Was it helpful for us to make those changes in the budget? Were you able to get those monies out? And that's kind of, and it doesn't have to be in the micro details, but just, hey, it would have been helpful to have done this in March because then we could have done X, or this worked really well. And so just that kind of input is what I'm looking for. Because as we keep looking from Good News Bev, as she's been called now officially, we keep looking at increased amounts. And so I think that for us to make good decisions this next year, we need to know when we need to make those decisions by, in order for you to effectively utilize the funds.
And Mr. Sonnenberg.
Would the board want me to make that same request of Manitou, Green Mountains Falls, Rama?
Yes, if they can.
And just as a point of information, we'll be coming up on maintenance of effort reports as an information item today. So that's probably a great place to stick it in for next month too, when Rick updates us on asking everybody for their maintenance of effort. Okay, so I think that we can just accept the financial report. Is that correct? Okay, so we don't have to have a vote on that one. All right, so so we're going to go ahead. If there's no other questions, we are going to move to item number 8, the 2022 capital maintenance and public transportation contracts and the city of Colorado Springs. Go ahead, Gail.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Gail Sturdivant, City of Colorado Springs, City Engineer and Deputy Public Works Director. The city will be presenting 6 contracts for the board's consideration and ask for approval at the end. Our first contract is for the Black Forest Road widening project that runs from Woodman Road to Research Parkway. This is to be one of 2 large property acquisitions. You'll see a second one next month. This one happens to be going to School District 20. It is for a total of 1.856 acres that are split up between right-of-way, permanent easement, and temporary construction easement. We did receive approval from City Council yesterday to proceed with this property acquisition. As it's over $100,000, it does require our board's approval. Any questions on that particular one in more detail? Right, I'm going to move on to the second one, also for Black Forest Road. This is for the construction management and inspection services. The city went through a procurement process and received 5 proposals. Basis Partners was picked by the city. The contract value putting in place is for $2,172,375. And they would have that in place. I will mention the city has Black Forest Road out for construction bid right now. The bid opening was originally scheduled for January 20th. We've been asked for the contracting community to give us some additional time, so we're going to extend that to January 27th. So we'll have bids. The CAC is aware they're going to be seeing the memo asking for approval with their packets, but getting an email and a hard copy at the board meeting with the actual numbers for approval. And then you'll see that in your packets next month, along with that second large property acquisition. So just to give you a heads up on those two items. The city's third contract is for to use maintenance funds for an asset management program we've been working on getting standing up, which is the structures in the right-of-way program. Again, we went through a procurement process. We received 3 respondents. These structures are structures that have a direct impact to the traveling public and the safety of the traveling public. So for example, if you have a retaining wall that's holding up your roadway, or it's adjacent to a roadway that is having some structural deficiencies that go through into this. So there's a 3-part asset management process we're going through. This contract is for the first phase, and it's for $214,017 to Collins Engineering. Questions? All right, I'm going to move on unless you all stop me and ask questions. The fourth contract is also for maintenance. It's for pre-overlay concrete, for PPRTA pre-overlay concrete. We went through an RFP process for this particular contract as well. 2 contractors were selected, HCD and Lucky Dog Construction. Those contracts are on call as needed to do concrete work in advance of overlay that's paid for by PPRTA. Each of the contracts will have the potential value of $500,000 for a total of $500,000 each for a total of $1 million total, based on need and approved budgets being available. The 5th contract is for intersection improvements. These come for programs funds. These are for improvements for that intersection that's at Union, Milam, and Old Ranch Road. If you've been out, and there is a location map included in your packet. If you're out there, or if you've been out there, there is an interim or a very temporary connection there right now. This is to advance this intersection design to final design. What I'm referring to is the interim improvements, because there still would have to be an ultimate build out of that intersection. Because if you've been out there, Milam Road is a 2-lane county road, and we're really only going to be doing improvements on the north, like 340 feet. They're north of Old Ranch Road for that connection. Anyway, this is a change order to have AECOM complete those engineering plans, and then we plan on doing construction in this next round later this year. It's in the amount of $97,685. All right. Moving on to the city's last contract. It's for the I-25 ramps, South Nevada and the Tejon corridor improvements. This is the city's last A-list project to get started. We're getting started. Anyway, we went through an RFP process as well. We had 5 respondents. I know it says in your packet with a not to exceed value of $500,000. We are going to be asking for this first phase of work in the amount of $191,258 to go to Wilson and Company. There is also a map in your packet that shows the location of the project and kind of the limits that get studied and looked at as far as the overall corridor improvements in that area. So with that, the city is available for questions, and we ask for the board's approval.
All right, Councilmember Helms, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gail, a quick question on as you just said, we're starting our last A project.
Yes.
What's the process now? Do we even consider additional projects off the A list on the B list? What's our process for that if we do that?
I would caution you that this project isn't fully funded yet, and there's a handful of other projects that
Okay.
aren't fully funded yet. So for example, we have Black Forest Road up for construction. We're gonna have the Circle Drive bridges in the next couple months.
Okay, that's what I want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
thank you.
yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
And Rick.
The ballot measure, both the original one and the 2012 for PPRTA 2 contains the key phrase of completely funded. So all the A's of all member governments have to be completely funded before you move to the B. So on our radar, but staff wise, we haven't consolidated our recommendation to the CAC and the board. At some point, we're going to have to bring a draft definition of completely funded to the CAC and board so that you know which budget year you will be transitioning from A's to B's. We will be doing that in the next few months with some input from key staff members, but that's what the ballot requires, completely funded. So, the ultra conservative definition that we're not necessarily recommending is if it's in the budget, then it's completely funded. But as we all well know, there are change orders that come up from time to time. So the ultra conservative interpretation would be if it's in the budget, then that's all you get. Again, this is not necessarily what we're recommending, but and if change orders come up beyond what's in the budget, then you, member government X, have to eat that cost. So that's the difficulty of trying to come up with a definition of completely funded.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can still say yes. Roland.
Roland Gardine, being the new kid on the block, what does NTE stand for? Okay.
Councilmember Williams.
So a couple of comments. First, thank you for helping to work to get us there. I recognize this is, in some cases, we're talking design, which is different than construction. And but the fact that we have made significant progress over the last 3 years in it accelerating and getting to the point where we can say we are beginning to work on the last of the A-list city projects. And I'm not sure where the county is, but I think they're also making significant progress along that way as well. I guess, and I know we're not discussing it on final action today, but I wouldn't want to say until I wouldn't want the definition for fully funded to be after every change order comes through, because that would literally mean you could not start anything until every project was completed. And if we had meant completed, we would have said that. And so I think it has to mean something other than completion. And sometimes you don't get the change order and the request for payment until after the project's already done. And so I do not think that's what it meant. And I think that would do a disservice to the voters to not begin those B-list projects. And I think, to the extent the way it's worked for other projects, when someone has come forward and said, hey, we need a change order, and this is where the funds are coming from. So there's still that ability. But as with anything, there's not an absolute guarantee the board must vote for the change order funding. But I think when it's fully budgeted, that I think it's time for us to, at that stage, be able to begin to budget the others. And so, I don't think you can send money to those B list until that money's in the bank, because I think that's what we meant by the fully funded part. So it's budgeted, it's funded, but once we budget one, we can begin to once we get the full budget amount in there, then we can begin to do that. Because I don't want us, and there's some details that have to be worked out, but I strongly oppose saying we then have a 1.5 year moratorium when we do nothing, because that's how long it takes some of these projects, and that's an optimistic state. Some of these are going to take a couple years to get done, even after they're fully funded. And so I don't want us to hold off and just accumulate 140 million a year sitting in a bank account that's not being used, because I don't think that's fair to the voters, and I don't think it's what they wanted. So that's my input on the other issue. But thank you for your work. I know when I first got on the board, the second time around, I was very encouraging of city staff to get this done so that we were in this type of position. So having whined ahead of time, it would be inappropriate not to say thank you very much for getting us there.
Okay, are there any other further comments? Yes, Jennifer Irvin.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I just wanted to mention, because it did come up, all of the county's A-list projects are underway.
And that even includes Beacon Light Road.
Woohoo! Okay, with that, I would move approval of the city contracts.
And I will second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, and I would like to say I'm really excited to see how Milam and Union and Old Ranch go.
Yes.
We've been wondering about that one for many, many years. So baby steps, yes. But we have driven through the barrier and used the temporary access. All in favor, say aye.
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 Awesome. Any opposed? Okay, that concludes item number 8. So now we are on to our City of Colorado Springs Transit Services monthly update by Mr.
Blewett.
Blewett. Sorry, by Craig Blewett. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. Our report is in your packet, but just a couple highlights. On fixed route bus, not a lot of change in fixed route bus ridership. November of 2021 is up slightly, about just under 3% compared to November 2022. But still about 45% below pre-pandemic levels for the month of November. On ADA paratransit, the ridership has been increasing. We saw an increase of 49% in November 21 compared to November 20. And we're now about just under 75% of pre-pandemic levels with ADA paratransit. Taxi choice option use is growing there, up about just under 11% from October of 21 to November of 21, but still well below pre-pandemic levels. And Vanpool is holding steady. It's above last year, but again, below pre-pandemic level of ridership there. I do want to talk a little bit about 2 items. One is our proposed spring service change, and the second is mobile ticketing option that we're very excited about. So spring service change, as you may recall, we do have funded this year. The new downtown shuttle is going to start in May. We did the public input process for that last year. So at this point, we're ready to go from a process standpoint for the downtown shuttle. But there are 2 new additional services we're asking for public input. That'll happen second or third week of February. And one is to change to Route 23. Route 23 serves Northeast Colorado Springs, goes up the Powers corridor, up to Barnes and across Barnes, back over to Academy. So it comes up from the Citadel Transfer Center up to Tut and Barnes, and then back west over to Academy. We're going to break that up into 2 different route segments. The northern part will stay Route 23. The southern part will be called Route 24. And the service improvement is splitting that northern half. It'll improve frequency by twice as good. So currently a 60-minute frequency on Route 23 during weekdays, and we're going to go to 30 minutes. And that's going to be welcome for the riders in that area. The second change we're doing is summer holidays, so Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. We currently operate at Sunday level of service on those 3 holidays. With this change, we would operate at normal day service for those 3 holidays. So Memorial Day and Labor Day are always on Mondays, so it's going to go to weekday service. And 4th of July, whatever day it lands on. So if it lands on a weekday, we'll do weekday service. If it lands on a Saturday, we'll do Saturday service all day for those holidays. So that's a big improvement. You know, a lot of folks still work on those holidays, and it's important for them to get to their jobs. And again, public input will take place second or third week of February coming up, and it would be implemented towards the end of April. The second item to talk a little bit more about is our mobile ticketing option. So that's the ability to buy bus passes on a smartphone using an app that's being developed for us by the company, Masabi, who won our contract. The riders will be able to buy any of our bus passes, including 31-day pass and multi-ride passes. We have a 20-ride pass. And you can make the purchases at home or wherever you have internet connection. Download it to your phone, store it on your phone, and have it on your phone when you're ready to board the bus. We're going to launch that on January 24th, 2 Mondays from now. We'll do a press release, post rider alerts on all the buses, and put it out on social media and make it known. There will be a page on our website in terms of how to download the app. and how to use it. And so, and our customer service folks will be ready for questions as well. So the first phase that starts January 24th is visual validation on the phone. So you'll be able to see the bus pass. There'll be a color for the day, and there'll also be some motion. So you know it's an active bus pass. People can't do screenshots and share them, for instance. And then the second phase, which will happen this summer, will be electronic validation. So a QR code will come up with the bus pass. There's a scanner next to the fare box, and there will be automatically scan it and then deduct the ticket from your phone. And also in the summer, there will be options for cash to buy tickets as well. So those who have a smartphone but don't have a credit card will also be able to load up their phones. And mobile ticketing, it's great for our customers. It's a new convenient way to buy our passes, but it also helps with the transit system. It speeds up the boarding process. When people are paying cash, and let's say it's nickels and dimes, it takes a while, and the bus is sitting idle. By making that quicker, you're making the buses keep moving. It's more productive for the system. So we're in our third week of testing now. It'll be ready to launch here, like I said, on the 24th. The app is called Ride MMT, and will be available to download for free on the Apple App Store and also in the Google stores as well. So we're real excited about that, and I think our customers are as well. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead, Randy.
Thank you, Craig. A couple quick questions. First, back to Route 23 and 24.
Yes.
And as I understand, you said Route 23 will now be every 30 minutes?
Yes.
Approximately how many other routes across our great city have 30-minute?
We're much better than we were. That's something we've really focused on, is improving the frequency of called headway in the transit business of buses. I think at this point, about better than half of our routes are 30 minutes or better.
Okay.
At this point.
And we're working towards making that. So what example is Route 24 down on the southern end? What is it?
60 minutes.
60 minutes still.
Yes.
Okay, my second question, bus drivers. How
Yes.
are we doing recruiting and retaining?
So, I had really rosy information in December.
Yes, I
and
remember
it's,
that.
and it's even better. We've had even more drivers sign up for training. But now we're getting hit by a wave of COVID, as is everywhere. I think we had 2,000 new cases yesterday in El Paso County. And some of those have hit the administrative staff at our contractor, including trainers. So kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but I think it's just going to slow us down by a week or 2 on the training process, but still get them out and make the improvements and put more service out there.
And as I recall, you mentioned that we've increased the starting pay, I think.
Yes. Yes.
And you had some bonuses, sign-on bonuses?
Yep.
as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very
And that
much.
seems to be working very well. We have, I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I think we're around 14 or 15 drivers in training at this point, or signed up for training. I think it was training that started on Monday. That's kind of be held off for probably a week or so.
Thank you.
You bet.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Craig, on following on Randy's point, when I look at the report you gave, it said revenue service hours for November 21 are 35.57% lower than November 2019.
Yes.
Do you know where we were in December on revenue service hours?
We have brought a couple of routes back, so it's going to be up a little bit more than we were in November, I believe. I can't remember exact timing when we started. It was November, December, but we added some back. Yes.
Because from a standpoint of trying to bring the ridership back, you have to know there's going to be a route there, and you have to know what the coverage is so that you can begin to make plans on that. And so when is our goal to get back to the full service levels we were at in 2019?
So we've been working very closely with our contractor. Our contractor is responsible for providing service. We did do a change order with our contractor to allow increased wages. And the contractor is his own target. Their own target was initially January. I think it's pushed off to February now to have the lion's share of that back. In terms of the full level, I'm going to say before we do the downtown shuttle, the thing we don't want to do with the downtown shuttle is have to cannibalize other service in order to provide new service. So we're not going to do that. But we're expecting to be fully back by May.
Okay, so in terms of recognizing it takes some time to get the ridership data, but the hours of when we operated shouldn't take that long. So if we could start as part of this report and speeding up that report time. So if your next month report could also have the January service hours, so we can see that.
Yes.
Because I do think, I know from talking to my colleagues on city council, some of whom are on this board, that those service hours are an important aspect, and certainly we can't expect ridership to show up if we don't have the hours of operation.
Yeah.
The other question I had for you is specific to the point you raised with respect to the holidays. And so I know that RTD has special service when there are large tourist events, Broncos games and other such things. And they extend their hours when the Broncos play a night game so that they can provide coverage. Recognizing that the Labor Day liftoff is early in the morning on Labor Day, and that fireworks are late in the evening on July 3rd, usually, sometimes July 4th, depends on the date. How nimble have we been historically in addressing extending times for routes to account for these events? Because having gone to some of these events sometimes, it can be really obnoxious to find a place to park. And so to the extent we had bus service that might be available, that might assist with that situation. So have we engaged with, I think, sports courts doing the fireworks? I know we've got a separate group that does Labor Day liftoff, although they're involved in it. And so, or it's a separate committee. Have we coordinated with those committees on possible bus service or from parking sites to the event or anything like that in the past?
So probably not as much as we could. We do coordinate a lot with regard to detours and the impact it has on service during some of those events. It is a goal of ours to provide more options for community events other than cars. One of the other things that we do at Mountain Metro is we have a bicycle encouragement program. We have a bike valet program where you have parking for bikes is basically a steel structure that people can lock to. If someone oversees it and make sure that they're safe. We do those. In terms of special service for events, you do have to be a little bit careful because we can't compete with private charter services. There's restrictions on that. I'm not exactly sure how RTD does some of those Broncos games and so forth. They may be using other than federal funds for those things. And with the idea that, you know, our programs are subsidized by the federal government, so they help us buy buses. We can't use those buses to unfairly compete against the private sector. So we have to be a little bit cautious in terms of how we do that. But if it's part of a regularly scheduled program, I think you can. So your example with the balloon liftoff, since it's Labor Day every year, well, Labor Day weekend every year, could we build into our schedules additional service? And that's probably a way we could handle that.
I guess I'd ask that we look at that, particularly as downtown, which is parking limited, has added Robeson and Widener. So it's not just a couple of the holiday events. So that's what triggered it in my mind today, since you were naming those dates. But I would like us to look at that and say, are there ways that soccer nights we might do something? Or so I'm not telling you what to do, but just if you could look at it and at some point the next few months, get back to us.
Well, I can tell you, as part of the downtown shuttle, and Gail's been part of these discussions as well, it is anticipated that provide service for special events, especially in downtown. And so we're already planning on running to midnight on Fridays and Saturday nights. But if there is an event, we may even expand those hours more. So yeah, we are looking at that.
Okay, thanks, Craig.
You bet.
Thank you for that. I know Councilmember Avila, you frequently have questions. Just want to make sure. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Those were good questions. And thank you, Craig, for the update.
And thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Craig. Our next item will be the City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition report. Gail.
Information is provided in your packet on change orders, real estate transactions, and an update on real estate activities that are pending for the rest of the city's capital projects, and I'm available for questions. Otherwise, it's provided for your information.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Oh, Councilmember Williams.
So as I look at page 37 of our packet, I very much appreciate having the information on the number of parcels to be acquired and the numbers that have been. It looks like there are, for some of these projects, a number of parcels yet to be acquired. Is that an accurate read of this?
Yes, that is correct. But you can see on that front page where it talks about it, some of those projects, although they have a large number, they've already started the process, or they're in the throes of starting that process to go through acquisition.
Okay. And then the last question I had related to property acquisition. Have we acquired all of the property in the Colorado Boulevard project yet, Colorado Avenue? Oh, you're passing the mic over. Okay.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I will have to check and make sure I can do a report back, but from what I remember, I think that we only have one remaining property that is still in litigation, and that one is within the city of Colorado Springs, and that is one that was in the condemnation process, and the project is complete, but that litigation is ongoing. My understanding is that he has sued the city, and he has recently filed lawsuit against the county as well. Again.
And from the city's perspective, we actually have another discussion on this topic tomorrow. So I don't know that I have any more information to add at this point, other than what Jennifer just shared with you.
Okay. I had heard there was still some stuff related to that, and so that illustrates why we asked that this kind of update be given so we know where we are. And I recognize there are legal things such as a possession and use agreement, or a court order providing access while we fight over the price and things like that that may lead some of these, but it looks like there's still a number of right of ways that we need to acquire, and I just encourage us to do that. So thanks.
Okay, any further questions? All right. Seeing none, we're going to go on to letter C, El Paso County.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. The information is in your packet. I'm prepared to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and move on. Rick, maintenance of effort.
The maintenance of effort requirement is in the establishing IGA. It requires the parties to report each year. And this is just a high profile reminder to everybody that I've made that request of all the member government staffs as of mid-December, and that they should have their maintenance of effort reports to me for the February cycle of the CAC on the board. Just information.
All right, thank you for that. We're looking forward to having those next month. Now we're on to 10A, a couple of action items. The PERTA 3 Matrix, our favorite movie we need to go home and watch maybe. I can't remember the Matrix, so. All right, go ahead, Rick.
My memo shows 2 items, but I'd request a 3rd item, and that would be Gail Sturdivant giving an update as the 3rd item, update on the progress on the engineering cost estimate proposals from some vendors. The first motion that's requested is the board voting on the so-called clean PPRTA 3 matrix. As the board stated at the last meeting, they wanted to vote on a clean matrix without 2 items. The first is the maintenance of effort base year, which is going to be on the February board meeting, and the possible reorganization of the CAC, which will also be in the February cycle. So that's the first motion that's requested. The second motion is to hear Beverly's PPRTA 3 revenue estimate that she presented to the CAC, and to vote on that. So those are the 2 motions that staff is recommending. And then after after the second motion, then please turn it over to Gail Sturdivant.
Okay, so the first motion, we finally, after 12 months of hard work, or 14, maybe even 18 months, we got through the matrix. So the matrix is, just for your information, Roland, it's a recommendation of different positions on the Pikes Peak RTA ballot issue number 3, which would be in 2025. So, and CalHAM's one of those issues we resolved, was seeing if they'd like to join. So we're happy for that. Mr. Williams, I've said something wrong because you're.
Well, it goes into effect in 2025. It goes on the ballot this year.
Yes, we're planning on doing that in the ballot this fall. Okay, so are there any questions on the matrix? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the Pikes Peak RTA matrix with the exception of the revenue estimate and the maintenance of effort base year?
So moved.
Second, John Graham.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Once again, are there any questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you, especially to our CAC and to our staff, Gail and Jennifer, who worked really hard on this project. We appreciate it. Yay. All right, the second item, we're going to turn it over to Beverly for discussion on the revenue estimate for the ballot issue in 2025. The ballot issue this year, sorry.
Yes. Okay, this is the revenue estimate for the years 2025 to 2034 for the 3rd renewal of the capital. And the key elements in this estimate are to start out with the 2022 revenue estimate of 150 million, and then an annual revenue growth of 3%. And in the calculation below on the attachment to the memo, it's like a compounded growth. And the highlighted part, 2025 to 2034, totals $1,879,000,000. And then a 1% recession adjustment brings it down to $1,860,000,000, and the 55% capital portion would be $1,023,000,000. And then the member governments discussed A-list being 75%, and then an A-list contingency / B-list of 25%. These numbers are for planning purposes, so they can determine how many projects that they can have on the A list and B list. And so that's what the purpose of this estimate is. I contacted Sheree McDaniel at the city and Nikki Simmons at the county. And they basically approved of this estimate. And if anything, it's a little conservative, but they don't feel it's out of line at all. So I'll leave that for the board's discussion.
Okay, so the purpose of the revenue estimate is to further push us along towards the ballot issue, of course, as we have to state how much we're going to be trying to collect. But also too, at this point in time, the revenue estimate is to allow our staff to start prioritizing projects for the A and B lists as well. So does anyone have any questions on the revenue estimate? Okay, well, Beverly did such a good job. Fantastic. Seeing that there are no questions, can we have a motion to approve the revenue estimate?
This Wayne.
I'll
so
move
moved.
appro- Okay, John Graham, second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Once again, any further questions? Yes, Mr. Williams.
Just a clarification. So when we're talking the A list contingency B list, the concept is for planning, those are the numbers, but we likely would have more projects in the B list than the 25% could fund to allow for shifting priorities and to allow for just in case things go really well. So because I would hate to approve it and then have nothing we could use the money on.
You are absolutely correct. The B list is going to contain well above the 25% number we're going to be using for planning.
Yeah, no, I think that's a reasonable allocation, and I recognize this may be conservative, but none of us can foretell the depth of recession or how many there will be. And so this seems like a rational thing, which is why I did move approval. And we just always have to adjust to whatever actually comes in because we have no other revenue source than sales tax.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I would just add that in the matrix that the PPRTA board also approved, there's additional flexibility in that that will be going into that ballot measure that allows us to, look at other projects as well. So I think not only do we have that with the B list, but there's additional flexibility that with your approval of that matrix that the board has built in to allow for additional projects. So thank you, board, for that.
Okay, any additional questions based on that discussion? All right, seeing no further questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion passes. And then Gail.
Thank you. Gail Sturdivant, City of Colorado Springs. So I wanted to give you an update on the city's efforts to obtain firms to provide construction cost estimating services. I know we've talked about this a lot over the last year plus. We're close to the point where we're able to start advancing that. We put together informal RFPs for PPRTA to use to solicit projects to 3 firms. Each firm was given the opportunity to propose on 7 different projects. We received those proposals. We've made the determination of those 21 projects total that were looked at. One is really dropping off from scoring from further PPRTA consideration since the city is doing a very in-depth process with Connect COS. 2, we feel like we may have enough information, and a 4th one we've put on hold for right now. So what we're going to be doing next month is we're going to be bringing 3 contracts for your consideration to start advancing 17 cost estimates. I just want to let you know the city has many other cost estimates that are going on, but several of those are related to other preliminary project work that's being done under other efforts, but these are ones that are going to be going out. This is our first round. We do anticipate having others, but just to give you a heads up, I wanted you to know you'll see these 3 contracts are going to total just over $325 $1,000. You, with what you allowed us a couple months ago in the matrix discussion, it was about 348,000. So there's a little bit left over there. I would ask for you to consider allowing us to contract for up to another 150,000 to do some additional estimates. I know I have some bridges in particular that I'm going to want to get some more detailed estimates coming up on. So one was just for information, and two, I wanted to throw out there that we would like to keep this ball rolling, and if it was allowable to the board to be able to go and solicit for some additional work beyond what I just discussed.
All right, and thank you. I do believe we have something from Rick.
Just to remind the board that the original request of the amount of money to spend on engineering estimates was $1 million and change. The board cut that down to $500,000, and then said that each member government would get its population share, and that's where the 348,000 to the city. But that motion where the board approved the $500,000 also included the option for any member government to come back and ask for additional funds. So that's what Gail is asking for today.
Okay. Are we supposed to move this one? Are we okay? Does this require approval? I'm sorry, I got a little distracted.
Yes, Madam Chair, it would be helpful if the board would to have a discussion and take a motion and vote to allow us to go through and to proceed with getting proposals to spend up to an additional $150,000.
Okay, Mr. Williams.
I do think it's critical that we understand where our bridges are. We've certainly seen issues in communities that did not know where their bridges are, and those did not result in good things. And so I would move that we approve the additional 150,000 for these estimates.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment?
Yeah, I too believe that it's really important to do this.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That we have one, I didn't know if we should take a break and bring in Dan Jablon right now. Dan, what's your schedule like? This is Commissioner Williams.
Hello, Commissioner Williams. Whatever works best for you, I can go now. My report's real short, or whenever you want to come back, whatever's best for you.
Yeah, just execute using my chairman's privilege, which I think I might have. We're going to move to item 10B. There's one other item on 10A we need to just discuss shortly here. But on 10D, our legislative report.
Great. As I'm sure you all are aware, the legislative session kicked off today. As inspected, everybody is playing nice, and that will last a week or two. 37 bills have been read across the desk in the Senate while the meeting was going on. I was kind of perusing them. So far, none of those will have an impact on us. And of course, during the interim, Rick and I and Jennifer Ivey were monitoring the Transportation Interim Committee, and no bills came out of that that gave us any great concern. Later tonight, I'm expecting about another 50 or 60 bills to go read across in the House that I will go over to make sure that we are in the loop on anything that may affect the RTA. So things are going to be really picking up and ramping up. Right now, I suspect this will be a fairly quiet week, but we'll continue to monitor the bills. And I will be down there every day for any of you. I know you all have my contact information or could get it. Please feel free to reach out to me through text, through email, or just call me if you have any questions as to what's going on. But currently right now I'm just monitoring the bills and making sure that no bills will adversely affect the RTA. And I do expect a fairly aggressive session.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions for Dan? He actually, I found out an interesting fact. This is his most favorite 100 days of the year, next to his birthday and Christmas.
Exactly right.
So no text in the middle of the night will be ignored, except for maybe he might sleep.
They probably, if it's important enough to text me in the middle of the night, I promise you I will respond.
Okay. Dan, I don't see any questions here, so we're good to go. And we will certainly, I'll make sure that we make sure that everybody gets your contact information. So.
That'd be
and
great.
then-
Thank you so much. I'm expecting a great year for us.
All right. Thank you, Dan. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, now, in moving back to item 10A, I think we wanted to talk about the fact that the city of Fountain has been set with the change in leadership to Mayor Thompson and some members leaving city council. There's a little bit more interest in looking at the RTA. Could you explain, Rick, what's going on with that?
Certainly, several months ago, well, let me back up further than that. About a year and a half ago, the board directed PPRTA staff to contact 5 area municipalities: Woodland Park, Monument, Palmer Lake, Calhan, and Fountain. And most recently, relative to Fountain, they're after a couple times not having any interest. In the last 3-4 months, they now have more interest in studying the pros and cons of joining the PPRTA. Andy Gunning and I met with them probably 2 or 3 months ago at the staff level, staff to staff, shared some information with them, answered their questions. We believe they are having staff discussions and possibly citizen community meetings and even possibly city council meetings on the topic. Haven't heard anything recently, but we're just waiting to hear back, and we might possibly reach out and contact them again and see where they are in their process of researching us.
Okay, so in discussing this with Rick, the one thing, of course, that we see as problematic is we want clean ballot language in November, and we worked very hard as a board to do that. So I'm going to ask Rick and Andy to reach out to the town manager of Fountain, Scott Trainer, and we'll discuss this more fully next month if we need to. Okay, and Mr. Williams, you have a question.
Certain municipalities have elections in the spring. Does Fountain have that option, or is the only way they could be on it now to have a dual ballot issue in November?
I don't know that for a fact, but my recollection, and when we met with them a few months ago, is that they do have that option, but I'm not 100% certain of that.
We discussed April as a possibility, and I don't know that they had a set election, but they could call for a special election in the city for April.
Okay, because an April election allows us adequate time to adjust to whatever happens, but that's not much time, because for an April election, ballots go out in February and there's supply chain issues on ballots. And envelopes for them, because I know these things, because I'm running an election for a special district in May. So I would love to have Fountain in, and so, but I do think we need to know what they want to do, and if we've got to do a more complicated November ballot issue, then we need to know that sooner rather than later. And if they do want to do a special election, it needs to happen really soon. I would, if you're talking an April election. So thanks.
And yes, Councilmember Helms.
Yeah, I would comment too, same things, but I would like to add, I would not like to see something on the November ballot that would compete with the PPRTA Matrix 3 piece and the language that I know Jennifer it would be a tremendous hardship to try to work that in there. So that would be my comments about that, that if they can't get it on this April ballot, which to me seems almost impossible at this point in time, unless they've been working it, and we don't know that. it would have to be either a special election, as you mentioned, Wayne, or not in this particular calendar year. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, so staff, you have your instructions and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. If there's something we need to keep everybody updated on, we'll certainly let you know. Okay, item 10B, the designation of posting places for our meeting notices.
The PPRTA board bylaws requires the posting places for meeting notices be designated annually, and that's routinely been done in January. And your normal motion designates the PPRTA website and the east outside bulletin board that you walk by each time you come in and out of the building as the two locations for posting places for PPRTA meeting notices. So that's our recommendation for a motion.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to post, well, actually, we need to have a motion for our posting places as online and the east door of the building here.
So moved.
Graham, I'd so move.
Okay, we have Mayor Graham as the motion and Councilmember Williams as the second. Any questions? Good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes. And Jennifer Ivy, 10C is the draft revision to board bylaws to add the town of Calhan, our first review.
Yeah, one of the tasks that staff and legal counsel were asked to do is look at the bylaws to see if any changes were needed in order to add the town of Calhan. In fact, there isn't any changes needed to add Calhan. There's changes needed to reconcile the bylaws with the fourth amended and restated establishing IGA. So we've suggested some changes to tidy up those provisions related to voting so that they are not in conflict with the fourth amended and restated establishing IGA. And then we added one other item where we noted that there was a timing on the filling of vacancies. Not necessary to add since the establishing IGA speaks to that, but we just thought it was more clear to include that in that section of the bylaws as well. So as the chair mentioned, this is an item that requires 2 readings pursuant to the bylaws. So you have to have it introduced 1 month, and then the second month is when the board will take action. So this month is just the referral to the board, and this will be an action item listed for next month.
Okay, I forgot about the first and second reading. So we do not, Ms. Ivy, need a vote today, or do we?
Nope, no vote today.
Okay, and any questions that we have, since we all approved the Fourth Amendment amended IGA, I think we're probably all going to be fine with this one.
Thumbs up.
All right, no questions. So that sounds good. We'll have that on our agenda next month. Thank you, Jennifer, for that work. So now we are on to item 10E, which is our staff field review report. Rick.
This is just information. It's my display of my drive around confirmation of what the member governments reported that they completed in the prior month, prior quarter. Just information.
Okay, thank you. Item number 11, per to member announcements. Does anyone wish to make an announcement? Go ahead.
I would like to personally thank all the members of the CAC and of the PPRTA staff for allowing me to come in fresh and new and jump up here as the chair for the last 9 months, I guess, 8-9 months. And I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and I look forward to being the vice chair for the next year. See where we go. Thank you.
Okay. So I would have 2 announcements. A little portion more of Research Parkway and Powers is going to be done this Friday when they open up the west side. That's my baby project. And that was my Christmas present 2 years ago, I will tell you. And I don't know as if Roland, you've had the fun to go through training yet with Rick. You have. Awesome.
Yeah, I had that fine opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. It takes a couple years to sink in, so, yeah. And Mr. Williams.
Just on the lines, I know the Black Forest Road project was discussed and we just talked about research and powers. And there are folks who live in between those two who use either one or the other as their egress or ingress. And so I've spoken to Travis about this, but just doing it on the record so people know that we're doing this. Gail, could you talk about the coordination efforts that are taking place between us and CDOT for the people in that area?
Yeah, so we're talking about making sure that we don't have closures at the same time, and also talking about the timing or the constraints that we're going to have on Black Forest Road and how they're going to sequence up with the work that they're going to have going through, in particular through that intersection at Research, because that's going to be a big deal. And the fact that one of the reasons why we allowed CDOT to make these closures on Research to go and do their work so they could be in and out of there faster, so that we can get Research open faster. So there's more options in that area. So they should be sequencing while we're continuing to talk with CDOT on a regular basis. Thank you.
And also on the greenhouse gas rule, we're still looking at that. We did get the nice version to read as bedside reading, but I'll be going to STAC on Friday. That's the State Transportation Advisory Committee, get the update from there. And we think that our bigger effect it might come in a couple of years. Is that correct, Andy?
Really impacts us as we update our long-range transportation plan on the PPACG side, which has to be adopted at the end of 2024. Roughly, that's when we have to demonstrate whether or not we can meet our emissions targets. So much more to come around that. We're still digging into it as well to see what the effect is on PPACG, on PPRTA, et cetera.
Okay, so just remember when you're driving in a bike lane, or maybe just driving next to a bike lane, it takes some of us a few days to figure out how to use those, that it's best to, Lohinos is shaking his head. It's best to.
I still don't know how to use those.
Yeah, I accidentally drove my car in one day, but the key thing is always look at them positively instead of saying bad words, because they are a greenhouse gas credit. So no, they will never go back on Research. And if Travis tries that, he's going to hear personally from me. So I think we're all done. Any other member announcements? And tomorrow is the State of the Region at Boot Barn Hall. If you're coming, we'd love to have you there. And we'll have Commissioner Vanderwerf and Commissioner Gonzalez will be our presenters. So
Wear your boots.
and you can wear boots, but they still say it's appropriate to also wear a suit. So, okay, no further announcements. I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second.
Second.
Cool. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I know.
I don't give you time to think.